You ever gonna go?
He can't beat us every time.
And apparently he does.
How does he do it?
This guy right here, it's because he cheats.
I'm kidding.
Oh, come on, take your
You're
turn.
250
You're
years
taking
old.
forever.
Of
That's
course you're
cheating.
better
That's why we
than
think
us.
you're cheating.
Everyone loves to talk about what ship they would own in Star Wars, but have you ever considered what kind of supplies you would need to do so? Recently, I had a request to cover this topic and thought it sounded really interesting, so I thought we would take a look. I'm Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and this is what it takes to live on a starship.
I need the bonding tech, hurry.
What about you?
I've got to get back to Jakku.
Back to Jakku! Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku?
It's not that one.
That place is...
No, no, the one I'm pointing to. No, no, no! If we don't patch this up, the propulsion tank will overflow and flood this ship with poisonous gas!
This?
Yes.
Fuel. Our primary concern is fuel. Without it, you aren't going anywhere, and then you might as well just live in a house. Fuel, like most supplies, is usually glossed over in Star Wars, as most writers don't like to burden the plot with unnecessary technical details. However, we do see several occasions where either the plot revolves around fuel, such as Solo or The Last Jedi, or where a refueling scene is used for aesthetic purposes, such as A New Hope. There are several varieties of fuel seen throughout Star Wars. Tibanna gas, Ipsium, Rhydonium, and Cluzon-36 were all common fuels for a ship's sublight engines, and coaxium and other forms of hypermatter were used to power hyperdrives and the hypermatter annihilation reactors used on larger ships like Star Destroyers. If you are to live on a starship, you will need a plan to refuel periodically. Most fuel-gathering stories in Star Wars seem to imply that fuel lasts a long time, so you may not need to worry about it too often, but you do need to worry about it. Legitimate businesses or recreational pilots can simply purchase fuel from basically any starport, but rebels, pirates, or the like will probably have to resort to stealing it or buying it from someone who did. If this is the case, you would also do well to have some protective equipment, as most fuel sources are incredibly hazardous. Food and water. Of course, it's not enough just to keep your ship going. You need to keep yourself and your crew going too. I don't have much to say about food or water, as you already know what they are. I will say though that food storage is something you should pay attention to when choosing a starship. If you only plan to use it as a short-term vehicle for taking vacations or business trips, then any ship with room for a cooler full of sandwiches will suffice. If you plan to live in it though, you'll have to be more selective. Din Djarin was lucky that Greef Karga offered him a house on Nevarro, because otherwise he'd have to stop at Space Arby's 3 times a day. His N1 is stylish but not suitable for long-term habitation, especially for 2. Starfighters do typically have a small cargo box containing emergency rations and a repair kit, so Mando isn't completely out of luck. Wikipedia states that the N1 can carry 1 week of consumables, which is typical for a starfighter. Larger ships obviously have more space dedicated to consumables. The YT-1300 can carry 2 months' worth in addition to its cargo capacity. The CR-90 has a capacity of 1 year. Imperial Star Destroyers can carry 2 to 6 years. I don't know what exactly is included in these figures, so it could be referring to fuel, but if that were the case, I think it would just say fuel. Water is even more glossed over in Star Wars than fuel is. I can't recall a single scene where characters in a functioning ship have had to secure water. Because of this, I assume that any ship big enough to live in has adequate water storage for all of the crew's needs, probably bundled into the consumables. Entertainment. They say it's about the journey, not the destination, but that's only true for road trips and metaphors for life. In space travel, it is very much about the destination. With nothing to look at out the window, you will need to provide some form of entertainment for your crew so that they don't make their own by throwing rocks at each other's heads or whatever. Most light freighters, such as the YT-1300 and VCX-100, include a didgeridoo table built into their living area. Video games like those Tora Doza plays in Resistance would probably make excellent candidates. Anything that doesn't take up much space while still providing at least a couple hours entertainment at a time will do. Hollow chests, hollow darts, drone blaster, space slug slam, and flight simulator squadron are all fairly popular choices. For larger crews, your entertainment offerings will have to be much more substantial, but unfortunately we don't really have a lot of information about what life is like on huge ships. Ironically enough, the large ships are pretty much only used for transportation, and the smaller ships are the ones people live in. Regardless, I could see something like the holodeck from Star Trek being a great asset for crew morale on Star Destroyers and similarly sized ships. Star Wars holograms are much more primitive, but I think at the very least they could pull off something like a hollow chess version of the giant wizard's chess in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Another mass entertainment option that we have only seen in the Star Wars cross-sections books is the artificial environment at the center of large Mon Calamari ships. This gives Rebel personnel a nice, chill place to relax in between missions. I've been a huge fan of this concept ever since I discovered it while researching my video about Home 1, and I think something like it on a smaller scale would still work even on ships as small as a blockade runner. Just dedicate one room to a garden with some plants, benches, and maybe a little fountain, and you have a nice spot for your crew to hang out during long missions where they might not get to go outside and get some fresh air for long periods of time. Other. I think most people could have predicted that you'd need food, fuel, and water to keep a ship and its crew going, but other necessities might not be as obvious. Did you remember to pack your medical supplies? A small ship can get away with a couple of first aid kits, but larger ships will need a medical droid or an entire medbay. Or what about items to repair your ship? Tools and spare parts are a wise precaution for short-term use, but a critical necessity for long-term habitation. You probably also want a vacuum-safe spacesuit to perform external repairs, though many crews throughout Star Wars forego this and seem to do alright. Another useful item to have is an astromech droid. These multi-purpose droids are critical for starfighters, but can be very useful for larger ships as well. They are capable of making simple repairs, carrying messages or information, navigating through hyperspace or real space, and make an excellent companion for your crew. Finally, it is also a good idea to stock up on emergency supplies. I already mentioned emergency rations, but there are other items that you might want to have. Long-range comlinks for each crew member, some kind of emergency shelter, camping supplies, and a locator beacon should have you covered for crash landings or other situations that leave you stranded planetside, and most ships the size of light freighters or larger come equipped with escape pods that will provide everything you need for space emergencies. I can't think of anything else that everyone needs, but you will also need to stock anything related to what you're actually doing with the ship. Weapons for pirates or bounty hunters, much larger food supplies for passenger service operators, a nice book for people just hanging out. I've covered everything that every ship needs, so now it's your turn to come up with what you personally would need. What would you take with you on a space journey? Let me know in the comments. I would like to take a moment to thank Z Corp Alpha for suggesting this video idea. I hope I have covered everything that you were looking to know. I really appreciate the donation and the video idea. It was a lot of fun to write and was something I probably would have never thought of otherwise. I look forward to hearing what you think of it. As for everyone else, let me know what you thought of the video and what other ideas like this you'd like to see. But that's going to do it for me, so I'll see you next week. RFC, out.